Welcome to Fotografiska and to the exhibition White Nights in Wonderland by Feng Li. Thank you for joining us tonight to listen to the conversation between the artist Feng Li and the curator of the show, Holly Russell. The talk will be in both Mandarin and English, and we're very happy to have the support of Chao, who will do the translation for us. There will be time for questions after the talk, so be sure to not forget them. And there will also be a book signing in the end. And without any further ado, I'm going to hand over, and I hope you're going to enjoy the evening and learn some very interesting facts about this great artist. Enjoy. Thank you.
Hello? Okay. Hi, it's really lovely to be here in Berlin, and thank you so much, Lulu, and to the Fotografiska team for all of your support bringing this together. It's been an incredible journey. So I am a curator. I'm working as a guest curator with Fotografiska, and that's been about 5 years now. First project was a solo show of an artist, Pixie Liao. And then in 2023, I was collaborating with the global team as they were leading to open their Shanghai venue. And we were discussing who could be the artist that could hold that main space, more than 700 square meters, and have a solo show to open that new institution. And we very quickly decided the best choice for this would be Feng Li. And we were very happy he accepted. And so this exhibition started, it was shown first in October of 2023 in Shanghai. And then it has been traveling. It traveled to Sweden to Fotografiska there, and then to Tallinn, and now we're here in Berlin. So it's been an incredible journey. This would be the first time, though, that it's a city that Feng Li has already photographed, and so you can discover some images from that in the last room of the show. Just to tell you a tiny bit about me, and then it's all about him. You may be wondering, who is this person? So I've been living between China and Europe, specifically Beijing and Paris, since about 2010. And I currently work at a contemporary art museum in Beijing. And so I will not be speaking with with Feng Li in Chinese today, but that is normally how we communicate. So I'm really appreciative to Liu Chao to be here, because to do both is nearly impossible in this setting. So, and as a curator, one of the things that interest me the most is an artist process. And Feng Li, he's coming from Sichuan province in China, and he's going to start making his first artistic work around 2005. Prior to that, he's working as a photographer for his city in a communication department. And so what I was really interested with him is that he has this incredible body of work over 20 years. And when I'd seen his very early photographs, they're black and white. And most of the time we never see those. It's very rare. They were shown in 2007 in Guangzhou, and then they weren't really what anybody shows anymore. And so I wanted to, in this show, allow people, as much in Shanghai as here in Berlin, to discover where he started, what were those points of inspiration, and then what are those kind of key moments of transition over the course of his career that he as an artist has modified a little bit his visual language. Because I think that's very interesting. It's normal that someone can have an idea that inspires them, but they're going to refresh and evolve in how they express it. And so that's a bit what we'd like to talk with you about today. So in this show, we're going to show a few pictures from the installation in the presentation, but afterwards you can walk around. There's 3 rooms, and these touch on different themes. So this first room is really images from different periods of his career that are brought together as a way to bring you into that wonderland, this unusual, surreal environment that is Feng Li's artwork, Feng Li's inspiration, Feng Li's way of seeing the world. In the second space, we're going to talk about a lot during the talk, so the origins of his work, which he considers one series, White Nights, how that started, how he changes his approach to using color, to using flash as a way to convey the mystery and the intrigue that he's seeing in daily life on the streets. And then finally, when he's going to start to travel, how he's going to work in different environments that are no longer in China or in Chengdu to photograph people and humanity. And so we're going to let him talk about that core interest that he sees as universal across all of the different places he's visited. And so we are going to have just some extra pictures because I know there's 150, but it's nice to see some more. So on the slide, you'll mostly have pictures, I think, that aren't in the show. I tried to. And so I would like to start just with asking Feng Li a little bit about his slightly unconventional background for someone who has become an internationally acclaimed fashion photographer. And just a little bit about the early years and where you learned to create photographs.
他现在要问的问题就是说关于你早期的一些，就是你早期从现在你是一个特别有名的时尚摄影，对吧？就早期你的出来的这个路径并不是非常的寻常的。对。那就想说这个他会接下来就这个 OK 背景来评论。
我介绍。OK。我想一想这个。其实我最早不是一个学艺术的，因为我是一个医生，中医针灸的，就是然后我没想到有一天我会成为一个摄影师，然后有一天还会跟时尚的这个行业产生关系，但是这个中间产生很多偶然的机会，改变了我的，就像命运的齿轮发生了变化。所以说这次展览白夜幻境，大家可以看到在那个展厅里面有黑白的这个灯箱，然后其中有一张照片就是那个巨大的圣诞树，就像一个就在此之前我不知道我会成为一个摄影师，或者我应该会拍什么，但是看到那棵圣诞树的时候，让我对这个世界产生了一种改变。原来我周围的世界是这么魔幻，这么有趣。那我知道我能看到什么，然后我也知道我能用相机拍到什么，所以这个接下来就慢慢的走上了这摄影的道路。
谢谢。
So he did not come from like art student, art school. That was not his background. He was trained in acupuncture, so trained as a doctor, Chinese doctor to be precise. So it was not expected for himself as well to embark on this career of photography. In a way, he felt this clockwork of fate, of destiny that brought him here. And if you go later to that first room, you saw this from his early work. There's this light box where you see a massive, singular Christmas tree, and in black and white. So before that, to be honest, he didn't know how he would see the world, what would be his expression. But after that, or that moment, suddenly he saw the wonders and the magic and surrealness of the world. And he saw fun, he found it interesting, and from there he opened his world of photography.
但是可以问一下，就那一天你去了这个地方是为什么去？因为05年他们是让你拍什么
So one second.
Oh, sorry, yes.
That
It's going to be fine. We're going to be great.
We're together. I'm here for that, it's precisely. So the question is, he went there to this amusement park. Why did he go there in the first place? What did probably like so like his company or the how do you say it? He was abgeordnet somehow. So like the company or the city asked him to go there. Why did he go there in the first place? That was the question.
就是我的摄影生涯，我就是从一开始我是做一个摄影爱好者，然后后来成为了一个专职的摄影师，这个是我的工作。当时作为政府宣传部的一个摄影师，要去记录我们在当地做的一个灯会活动。我们日常看到那些像这种灯会都是在公园里面或者在城市里面，看上去很美很好看，但是在一个郊外，然后又是浓雾弥漫的冬天，它就显得非常神奇。就像我们在美术馆看到那个艺术作品的时候，你会觉得它是一个更有灵性的一种场景。所以说我感觉那一瞬间被上帝眷顾了。哇哦！就是灵光乍现。
灵光乍现。哎。 He started as an amateur, to be precise, and then later he became a professional photographer because of his work. So he was employed at the, how do you say, publicity / propaganda department of the city. And his job or task at that day was to document a light festival. Well, usually, in your experience, light festivals usually take place in the city, so they're quite colorful, beautiful, but that was somehow the suburb or almost countryside. It was, maybe some of you already have seen it, or you will see it later. It was like a hazy, foggy winter day. So in that sense, he saw something quite, in a way, like strangely mysterious and wonderful. And there is a certain inspiration in it. He felt as if it was an epiphany. I mean, not in the Christian sense.
我再补充一下，当然就是我当时在拍摄这个照片的时候，其实也拍了很多工作需要的图片，就更像是一个新闻摄影师的这样的一种记录。但是我很庆幸，我看到了这个新闻摄影或者这个现实的另外一面，它属于我观察到的一面，就更接近一种真实，更接近一种抽象或者一种超现实。
So, of course, he did his job, and he took, like his task. He fulfilled those tasks. Those pictures that he took, the other pictures that he took, were more on the line of photojournalism. But he is very glad that he also took photos on the other side. The pictures or the size from his eyes, from his observations, that is more authentic. Looks a bit abstract, but it was maybe more authentic and surreal. In that sense, it was real for him.
Here you can see one of the images of the Christmas tree and some of these lotus flower lanterns that are being set up. So these are all from this kind of first series. And then I will figure it out eventually. And then, so I would like to I'm going to ask him now, these early works, I learned one day, and he probably hates that I constantly tell this story, but I learned that they were shot with his digital camera, and that there was a moment of decision-making between keeping them in color or switching them to black and white. And then this moment was an epiphany, but it's also going to be a moment where he starts to search for a visual language. And after this, there's going to be a format that starts to instill itself in his work. The way of using flash that he's testing to create an environment that remains between day and night is very interesting. So, 我就是说，你那个早期作品，你告诉我的时候，你是用数码拍的，我很好奇，也是用彩色来拍他们，然后换他们到黑色。这一点我还是觉得，在你的艺术家的一个找到你的自己的一个语言非常感兴趣的一点。还有你开始用闪光灯，可以谈一下你是从这一点开始做艺术品，开始想你是作为艺术的，也是你的过程从黑白的到彩色的是什么发生的？
从黑白到彩色的这个转变，其实因为我觉得黑白它更接近于摄影，就像我们看到很多那种经典的摄影史上很多照片一样，都是黑白的。然后后来我发现，我们现实的生活其实是彩色的。然后我不想让别人看到这张照片的时候，他觉得这只是一个摄影作品。但我更希望他看到是我当时看到的那一瞬间，比较就是真实的把它呈现给大家，而我不是说作为一个摄影师把它进行了一个再次加工。其实我用闪光灯的目的也是想在不同的时间、不同的地点，不管任何的光线，我觉得这一瞬间有趣的时候，我把它拍下来，就像一个证物一样的，然后让大家来这个看到的那一瞬间跟我看到是一样的。
So the transition from black and white to color To put it simply, black and white gives you this impression of poetics. If you look at the history of photography, you see a lot of classical works in black and white, whereas pictures in color, in his eyes, are closer to the reality. So he does not want the audience, not what like the exhibition visitors to see his work, like a work of photography. No, he wants people to see reality without processing, without like artistic work on top of it. So that, and then later addressing the flash, the use of the flash. So with the flash, then he could achieve also this direct confrontation to reality without the limitation of time, of place, and also with the specific lighting, natural light especially, that this photograph would function as a matter of proof, if you will, that the person who looks at the picture will see exactly the same image as he saw it at that time.
因为闪光灯的用是最简单、最有效的一种方式。然后就像我现在，比如我观察到一个有趣的瞬间，我不需要去调整一些技术性的东西，我直接可以拿起相机就可以拍摄。那这个闪光灯其实，就是一种怎么说呢？无形当中形成的一种特别的效果，就像一个舞台一样。现在这个光照在我们3个身上，大家都可以看到我们。 对，这我们成为一种主角，然后同时呢，它又像一种手术室里面的一种无影灯一样的，让我们脸上所有的皱纹都清清楚楚。它这个也是一种非常无形当中产生的，跟我本身在医学学医的这个经历也有关系。对，所以所有的这种机缘巧合形成了我现在一种比较特殊的一种拍摄方式。
So. Again, like on the use of flash, it is very simple but effective. So when you have a picture, like a picture with flash, when he sees something, he doesn't need to do any modification. There's no adjustment, but it does create its own language. It becomes a special effect. Take the example of right now. If you look at him, if you look at us here, you have this gallery light on our face. That is already a stage effect. No? So like on one hand, you could see, it's like a stage. So you have the protagonist, you have the characters on stage. At the same time, it also reminds him of the, how to say, like anatomy theater. So like in the operation room, that this light is merciless. You see every detail. You see all the wrinkles on the face. It's very honest. In that sense, like nothing he really does with like intention, a great intention. Maybe these things also happen without a plan. That his experience as a medical student maybe also contribute to it. Like all coincidences and chances, they work organically and they bring him to this point. And bring these pictures to this point.
So earlier today we were having a different interview, and I thought that he had a very interesting answer to this question, so I'm going to ask it today. We were talking a bit about the connection between art and daily life, and whether or not Feng Li felt like art and daily life were close, or whether they were quite distant, and if that had changed over the course of his career. And so I'm going to ask him again about that. 所以我们今天早上采访的时候也问了，就是艺术跟就是日常生活，他们是有什么关系的？也我想问你自己，就是以前觉得什么，或者现在感觉艺术和生活有什么关？
以前我最开始觉得艺术就是艺术，生活就生活，他们是分开的。但后来我越来越觉得，其实生活才是艺术。艺术本身其实都是从生活当中提炼出来的。就像我所有的照片都是跟我的生活轨迹有关系的。我今天看到了什么，我走到哪里，或者遇到什么样的事情，见到什么样的人，把它拍下来，其实都是我生活的日常记录。其实生活远远比艺术更精彩。我更愿意去街头去看那些在街头形形色色的人，我觉得他们比很多美术馆里面的作品更有趣一点。
So, before he saw art and the mundane and art, or daily life and the art separately, that art is art and life is life. And after a while, he realizes more and more that life is art. In a way, like art is abstracted or extracted from life. And if you look at his work, a lot of works kind of document his maybe it's the wrong word, but somehow biographical movement. So what he experiences from day to day. Maybe he goes on a meeting to meet a friend or colleague, or he goes to do something. There is this documentary aspect. But he sees in those documentation or documentary moments the brilliance and the fun and the life in everyday life. He really loves to hit the street, to take the street, and to see all different peoples walking on the street. In that sense, they are more interesting.
就像那个罗伯特帕卡说，那个你的照片拍得不够好，那是你因为离得不够近。我的个人体验是，如果你的照片拍得不好，那是因为你的生活不够精彩。
So to quote, or like Robert Capa, he said, if you don't have good photos, it's because you are not close enough. And his rework on it is that if you don't have interesting photos, it's because, sorry, you don't live an interesting life.
So on the topic of art and life, I'd like to transition that to fashion and life, because so Feng Li is going to start, as I mentioned, traveling quite a bit more after 2017. And then he's going to start shooting for different fashion magazines who are commissioning him, and the first one being System. And I'd like to ask him to talk a little bit about that, and also about how he approaches shooting fashion, and how he kind of argued with me a little bit about isolating his fashion images from all the other ones, because he didn't agree that they should be in a separate section, because fashion for him is this very integral part also of daily life.
Mm-hmm. So now the new topic, or like we move on to the next topic, which is...
We're both the same.
他现在跟你聊一下，就是时尚跟生活的分野，好吧？就是你大概是2017年开始，就是接一些时尚方面的活，然后比如说他列举了几本杂志，其中第一本好像有一个叫《System》的杂志，是不是？然后这里面有一个就是要点是，就是在策展的时候，就是他有想说把时尚的作品单分到一块儿去，然后你是强烈反对的。然后他因为对于你来说这没有这个分野，就能不能就这个方面你谈一谈
？OK， 因为我觉得其实，在很多年前，我跟周围的朋友说，我的照片其实很时尚的，然后也很艺术。然后像很多我周围的朋友，那个画家朋友，他们有的人用我的照片来绘画，因为他觉得我的照片里面有绘画的那种语言方式，想要表达东西。然后这种拍摄方式其实用在时尚领域好像也并不冲突，也并不矛盾。其实我们在看一些很多早期的时尚生意里面，它有大量的这种风格吧。对，但是我很荣幸，我在2018年就是遇到了我的时尚经纪人 George， 他对发现了我。然后我们在我第一次拍摄时尚杂志是 System， 在成都，我的家乡。那一次我觉得非常非常酷。就是因为我之前的拍摄都在大街上，或者去偶遇一些有趣的事情。那突然有一天，有一个庞大的团队带着很多有趣的衣服、好玩的模特，还有很多造型师、化妆师来就像一个电影团队一样的，你可以把你脑子里面想象的东西完全可以把它释放出来。我觉得这个很吸引我，对。
1 second. Yeah. So where we are, yeah. He tells his like artist friends, like visual artist friends, that like I find my quote unquote like I find my photos quite fashionable. Like they're very much fashion and very much artistic. And he really finds it so. And actually, some of his friends who are artists take his photos as inspiration to create painting or create visual artworks. So in his eyes, there's no such fundamental conflict like between art and, so to say, fashion. And he also finds proofs in especially earlier, like fashion photography. And in 2018, he was lucky enough that he met his fashion agent, George. In a way, George discovered him. And they took the first fashion photo shooting in Chengdu, which is his hometown. And it was unlike his previous experience that, it's just like one solo artist taking the street. No, it was him working with a big team with costume, makeup, and everything. So in a way, he felt it was almost like a cinema team or like a film team. Like he could project and realize his imagination into the scene in front of him.
对，就像我刚才说的，艺术和生活其实它并不矛盾，也不冲突。实际上，其实也是跟生活来自于生活的，它跟生活有关系的。那我的照片其实也是在反映生活。它其实跟这个时尚也好，跟艺术一样，它自然就会联系到一块儿。我并不是想单独的表现时尚里面所谓的好看，所谓的那种光鲜亮丽。我更希望它是一个鲜活的、有趣的，就像我拍摄的日常的创作的艺术作品一样的，它都能引起更多的一种思考或者是一种想象空间在里面去。
So like he would repeat and stress this point that he does not see a conflict between art and life. So art again comes from life. So his photograph reflects life, and so in that sense, there is an organic link between his photography and fashion. He does not see fashion, and he does not approve really of like fashion photography that orients towards, so to say, like looking nice, looking pretty, and looking really like has this very catchy visual expression. No, for him, it's the life and liveliness in it. It has to be fun. It has to be interesting. Like through the fashion photography, one has to see the imagination.
And I'm just going to ask him kind of if he were to define fashion for himself, what that would be. And maybe we can use the wall that's beside us as a illustration of that. 如果你要自己说你觉得时尚是什么，我们可以用这门墙要表达一下你的一些想法。
其实关于时尚这个板块是我正在进行或者一直在进行的一个系列，就 What is Fashion。有一天我在街头看到一个女孩，她衣服的后面刚好有这几个英文字母 What is Fashion， 恰好也是我这么几年关于跟时尚有关系的一些我自己的一些体会，也相当于我提出了一个问题，原来有人也在这么思考，所以说我的作品，它看上去跟日常的拍摄并没有什么两样，除了你甚至于分不清楚哪些是模特，哪些是素人，甚至于哪些是真的名牌，哪些是假的名牌，在我接下来的一个很大的一个系列当中，会有更多的关于这方面的内容。我觉得时尚不是说只是一些奢侈品，更多的还是它是一种态度，是一种温度，是你关于这个美的一种定义吧。对。
So he has a series actually called What is Fashion? And the name of this came from an encounter on the street that he saw a woman who has this print on the back of her clothes, and it says "What is fashion?" there, and he was touched by it because that is also a question that he has been pondering and reflecting himself. He has his own understanding, and he's glad to see that someone else, whoever is behind that design, raises the same question. And if you look at this wall, as she proposed, it's difficult, no? Or there's not really a point to tell the difference between, so to say, artistic work, staged work, and a documentary like mundane life. And it would be difficult probably to tell what is a real, how to say, luxury brand and what is a fake, as well who is a professional model and who is, so to say, an amateur or a captured like person. And like in the future, he actually plans on working on this on a bigger series. And to come back to this question, what is fashion? And for him, the point is rather an attitude and as well a temperature. In a sense, fashion is to define beauty instead of, everything else or over everything else.
就像我这张香奈儿看到大家一个巨大的 bag 一样，我觉得它对我来说就很时尚，我很喜欢这样的一种态度。当然，就是这个老太太她并不知道她这个意味着什么。我觉得这个特别有趣，因为我还拍了很多这样类似的在街上穿的衣服、背的包。其实他们用这些人，他并不知道他这个英文字母代表什么，他并不是为了去追求虚荣而去使用这些东西。我觉得这是一个特别有意思的现象。
So, if you take that picture of this lady, a senior lady with the Chanel logo, you find it quite interesting. This gigantic Chanel bag. There is an attitude, and the most beautiful part is that she is not aware of it. For her, it's just a pattern. It doesn't mean anything. And in her, not in her, in his works that he takes on the street, actually there are many other examples like this, that the protagonist, so to say, or the character, they are not really aware or they don't care about what stands behind those brands. They wear it or they carry it not because they try to have a piece of that prestige or privilege, to have their bite of vanity. No, they just have it. It's like that, and that attitude inspires him. He finds it very lively and interesting.
So I'm going to go now to a part of Feng Li's life that's very important. So in a number of his images, you will notice there are many animals that will appear. There's one animal that appears a lot, especially in recent years, the last 8 years. And so I wanted to just ask him to talk with us a bit about the significance of animals in his life, and maybe a little bit about his pig, who is a sort of a muse. So that we can hear this story.
你过去8年，就是我们接下来到你生活里面另外一个很重要的部分，应该就是动物。那尤其是过去的8年来，然后这个猪的形象也是反复出现。就是你能不能跟我们稍微分享一下，就比如说你动物在你生活里的位置，以及尤其是这只猪，它究竟一个什么样的神圣？
就是大家看到我的照片里面，其实都是人。都跟人有关系，好像每一张照片没有人我就没办法拍摄。包括我为什么要用树的构图，就是因为我想把人放在这个画面中间，让他成为一个被就是关注的对象。那么拍这些动物是我最开心的时候，最放心的时候，然后我没有任何的想法，就觉得那一瞬间很可爱。就是我觉得这个世界上还有唯一的一些美好，就在动物上面体现出来了。
So, like, it is as if, like, if you look at his pictures, all of them, almost all of them, like a lot of them has a focus on people, on human, to the extent that maybe you have the impression, without people, you can't really present any work, can you? And he would be honest, like, if you look at his vertical composition, he chose this also because verticality gives him the possibility to put the human body in the center of attention. When he takes pictures of animals, however, honestly, he doesn't have any thought. It was just a feeling, it's a moment, and he just find the animals cute and lovely, and no other thoughts. And he's very grateful to that he could also see and express this beauty. Simple, so 安发素。
我家里收养了5只猫，还有一只能看到这个猪，当时还很小，到后来慢慢的变大了，然后还有一只很大的鹦鹉。说到这个猪，我其实因为我爷爷其实是杀猪的，我从小就看到就是 我爷爷在不停的杀猪。后来我偶然间捡到这头猪的时候，我感觉是在替我爷爷在还这个债，对。然后还有另外一个更有意思的事情，其实我当时从开始喜欢摄影的时候，我觉得我一直想象我会成为一个像国家地理杂志一样的摄影师，去全世界去拍雪山，去拍野生动物，去海洋里面。但是没有想到有一天我拍的自己的猪出现在了国家地理杂志上面，我觉得这个是一种非常意外的惊喜。
So, in his private life, he has adopted 5 cats and a pig. The pig was small and, well, it became big. And there's also one, not carrot, parrot, yeah? So one detail maybe you need to know is that his grandfather, when he was a child, his grandfather was a professional slaughterer that slaughters pig one after another. So the moment when he found and adopted this pig, he had the feeling that, I am here to pay back what my grandfather has owed. So this is one thing. And the other thing would be when he started photography, he kind of had this fantasy or dream or idea that maybe being a photographer means I would be taking photos like what we see on National Geography, you know, with all these mountains covered with snow, the massive ocean, or like wildlife, etc. He would not have imagined that he would later be taking pictures of a pig. That would just not really work on National Geography.
So I think I'm going to probably wind it up there so that I can leave a little bit of time for questions. I hope that today that you've been able to gain insight onto the evolution of Feng Li's approach and will leave a bit energized and reminded that even though there is so much photography around us, the transformative potential of it, of the medium, and as he reminds us of just looking at life, even at its messiest, as a source of inspiration, of exchange. And so I will then invite anyone who has any questions for Feng Li. We can probably take a couple of them.
Impressive. I have a question related to your work with the models, not in the fashion industry, but more like this lady which you can see on the right-hand side, who is most probably surprised and not maybe even amused about the picture itself. So how do you approach the street photography and working with people who you consider interesting, and the situation is just a blink of an eye, so it's a second, and how do you handle the situation? Do you talk to the people before, or are you taking them by surprise and then getting the consent later?
其实我只是说那个花很有意思，你可不可以在那个花前面，我们拍一张照片，然后他就，因为他刚好戴着那个牙套，然后他有意识的露出那个牙套，我觉得就拍下这个瞬间，我觉得这个，至于说它好不好看，我觉得其实并不重要。我觉得这个瞬间它其实传递出另外一种，就像紧张也好，或者这个怎么说呢？就像是一种戏剧性的瞬间吧，对。其实我并没有说服他，你一定要这样，就我只是把这个舞台交给他就好了。
但是他是模特，
他不是，就是朋友。
是朋友，不是
对，就是朋友。
但是他第二部分，这是第一部分，但是第二部分他是说，比如说如果你是街拍，这个你会不会问人？你不一定。
在街头摄影的话，通常我会在第一时间把我看到那瞬间拍下来，但有的时候，比如那个人，我觉得他特别酷，我也会主动跟他说，我可以给你拍张照片吗？但是通常你这样拍摄的话，他还是那种状态会不太一样。对，所以我更愿意就是在街头摄影的时候看到陌生人用那种比较在不告诉他的情况下拍摄。对。
So take this picture that you pointed at as an example, like you just talk to the woman and ask, hey, look, I find this interesting, like, can we take a picture there? And she agreed. And there you see, if you look at the details, you'll see that she was wearing a bracelet, no? And for him, like whether this picture looks good or not is not so important. But the moment that the picture cemented or captured, it has its own. And then there, like he kind of like struggled to find a word there, and he chose drama. So this moment carries its own dramatic. So in that sense, like he captures the moment, like he chose this moment, he chose this situation, and he just fully trusted the person, the model, so to say. He just gave it to her. And on the street, usually he captures, like he sees something, he captures the first moment. That works usually the best. Of course, there are also moments he asks the person, hey, I find you cool, I find you interesting, do you want to take a shooting together? And it would as well work, but usually, you know, it introduces a different dimension and dynamics. The best thing would still be if you see a moment, capture it, and that is it.
So I think your work it shows this incredibly exotic picture of window into contemporary China. And I'd love to know what you think your work says or tells people. What can we learn about China from your work?
Okay, it's okay, it's okay. 他就说他就看你的照片，觉得非常的怎么说呢，就是有异国情调。就当然不太确定他说的这个异国情调只是狭义的异国情调，还是更宽泛的一个异国情调。然后比如说冬天的一个当代中国，他就想问说，我们看你的照片，看你的摄影作品的话，我们能够从中了解到当代中国的什么呢？
我觉得其实它跟中国还不是那么，我并不是想表现关于中国的一个当代的什么东西，我更想表现是一个更广泛意义上的，就是人的一种状态。这个可能跟我本身是学医有关系，在我看来，所有的疾病在任何人身上都是一样的。对吧？就是人，它是一个普遍性的一个存在，所以说我的照片里面，其实你看不出来它是在什么地方，就像那个是在东京拍的，你也看不出来，那个是可能在成都街头，或者这个在某一个地方，它其实地域并不重要。关于人的这个是亚洲人还是欧洲人还是什么也不重要，重要就是一个模糊的一个人的状态就好了。然后所有的关于那个城市也好，它就是一个模糊的，我们只是生活在某一个地方。那最终所有的还是你人当时那一瞬间，它出现的一种戏剧性的一种感觉。对，我并不想告诉大家这个世界上发生了什么，因为我们每天都可以打开这个网络，可以知道这世界上已经，我们就在这个时候讨论的时候，就是有可能战争正在进行，灾难正在发生，饥饿还在延续，对吧？所以说，我觉得我不想把这些纠缠于那种这个已经大家都很清楚现实里面去。
He's really not trying to express or convey anything China or Chinaness. He rather focuses or like brings his attention on a more general term of human and humanity. Maybe it comes from his experience or background in medicine. That if you look at disease, like a disease, it happens on any person. Is a disease and is a person. Like this picture he took in Tokyo. Oh, that picture he took in Tokyo, and then over there you also see pictures from Chengdu or anywhere. Like in that sense, like you don't really recognize the place that much. What he wants to present in the picture is that moment, and there is a certain dramatic tension. There is a certain, call it drama or what, a feeling, a perception there. And like you don't need his picture to learn anything. You take out your phone, you go on the internet, and you see everything. Right now, as we talk, there are wars going on. Maybe the hungers continue. Like you don't need to be informed through the photography and the photo in the frame. If you feel that moment and that dramatic tension, that's enough.
冯丽老师您好，非常开心能够在这边看到您的展览。我第一次看您的展览是在斯德哥尔摩去年的时候，所以非常荣幸今天可以亲自看到您。我的问题是有关您这个色彩的一个怎么说探索一个过程。您刚刚提到了从黑白到彩色，您有这么一个怎么说探索，就是决定了要去走彩色。那在这个色彩的这个过程当中，您有刻意的去做编辑色彩，或者是找到自己的这个有特色的这个颜色上面有做刻意的编辑吗？还是说很自然的去找到这个颜色？
其实我。
1 second.
Sorry, I'll just have a question here. So my question is regarding the color and the vibrancy throughout the exhibition. There's a consistent color / look to it that's kind of a signature to yours. Earlier on, you mentioned that you had exploration from black and white to color. I was wondering, like throughout that process, did you intentionally edit your photos? And if not, why is that? 谢谢你。
其实我更多时候没有选择，因为你在街头或者在那种日常的生活当中，你不可能说啊，你今天应该穿一个什么样的颜色衣服才能拍，你可能只是看到他那一瞬间的状态，值得你摁下快门。然后我觉得可能这个是关于色彩的这些，可能就因为闪光灯的出现，让这个色彩加强，然后可能是跟我们平常看到不一样了。比如像我这件衬衫，我觉得发现闪光灯拍过之后特别好看，对，就是在很多时候它就产生一种化学反应一样的。但其实我并不在意，比如我在拍摄，我并不会在意你穿的什么样的颜色，更重要你当时那一瞬间有没有什么更多的想象空间，对，包括甚至于构图都不在我的思考范围以内的。关于色彩、光线、构图，我从来不去想，我只需要看到这一瞬间，哇，你有可能。符合我的那种，就像电影里面角色一样的，我去从哪里向你拍摄就好了。对，所以一切都是最好的安排。
So he doesn't really choose, yeah? Like he doesn't really make a color decision in that sense, especially when he takes. It's different. Okay, it's a different mic. Especially if we go to the everyday life, he go on the street. Does he have to say, okay, I see, or like you have to wear in certain clothes, then I take the picture? No, it doesn't work like that. You see something, you take a snap, and that is it. Maybe this question on a color maybe comes from the choice of using flashlight, because it somehow makes the color more present. For example, if you take his shirt that he's wearing right now, he realizes that shirt looks really brilliant with a flashlight, and maybe that's how do you say, it's chemistry, you know, it's a kind of a reaction. So but again, to come back to the moment of taking photos is really that moment. We've been talking about that this evening many times. He does not consider composition or color or lighting. That's not really the focus there. As if looking at a film, then you decide for the character, and that is the key. And he believes that everything that happens is already the best composition.
Thank you for the questions. Are we? Yeah. I don't know if there are any other questions, and if not, we're also going to be around. So if you'd like to talk with us privately, and we're more than welcome to speak with you all.
Thank you so much. Please be reminded there's a book signing before you exit the exhibition. Thank you so much. It was super interesting, for your help as well.
And thank you so much.
Yeah. And enjoy your evening, enjoy the night, and thank you for being here.